isn't always I am well. Sometimes I am a...
Just 9 Inch Nails yet?
No, never.
Never?
Never.
What's up with that?
I have no idea.
Any friction?
No, none.
You're not going to give us an intro?
There isn't really any to give.
Right.
Just time passes, things change, life moves on.
Right. So it has nothing to do with that concussion you got from the downward spiral?
Oh, no, actually, no.
Nothing at all?
What concussion? What? My memory's back, it's fine. No.
If you had a chance, would you tour with 9 Inch Nails again?
Nah. I did it. I got nothing else to do there.
You want to open for them, like, with Tweaker, or?
Oh, well, that would be different. Yeah, maybe, sure.
Maybe
I'd consider that.
Do a package deal.
A little package deal with us and Filter.
That'd be great.
Need a perfect circle in there. We can just get everybody.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, your first album, The Attraction to All Things Uncertain, it was a huge change from 9 Inch Nails. What was the change for it?
I don't know. I guess I got older. You know, things just grow up. I'm not nearly as angry as I used to be, and I don't know, just trying to do different stuff and just experimenting. You know, and that record was a lot of kind of trying to find myself too a little bit. You know, after being in that band for so long, and then all of a sudden like trying to do something, you know, quasi alone at home and everything. You know, the new record is definitely is more honed now. But you know, back then anyway, it was just it was definitely a bit of soul searching doing that because it was right after I quit the band.
2 a.m. wake up call. It had a rougher edge to it.
Oh, okay, cool.
You don't think so?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. It just seems more mature to me, and you know, more organic. And you know, I have Clint now. You know, I didn't have a part of the first one. Clint's up there sound checking.
How'd you get hooked up with Clint?
He was in a band, Jack Off Jill, a few years ago that I produced an album for, and we just became best friends while making that record. And he started coming over when I was doing remixes, and I started, you know, bringing him in to play guitar and stuff. And then we started writing together, and then, you know, got a new deal for Tweaker, and just time to work on a new record. And so we spent a weekend together a couple Halloweens ago, just you know, trying to write together. And in that weekend, we wrote Ruby and Worse Than Yesterday from the new record. So pretty much, you know, we were just kind of both like, you know, just when you find somebody you really enjoy working with, you know.
Stick with it.
Yeah, I mean, I had never had any intention of being like some sort of Tweaker being some sort of egocentric solo thing. Solo things are crap, you know. Like I liked bands, I liked friends, and all that camaraderie and stuff. So
yeah, I would say that's part of the change from being with a band, having to answer to somebody, to being your own thing and doing everything yourself.
Yeah, doing your own. I mean, doing everything yourself isn't really. I wouldn't say it's not fun, but it's definitely, you know, I think the new record is definitely just more mature and songs are better written, and you know, we went for a totally different vibe this time out too, you know, stylistically. So
yeah, you certainly got it. I mean, definitely. Composed from video games. What brought you to that point?
Pretty much like everything. It was a fluke. You know, I'd worked on Quake when I was still with Nails, you know, and so now cut years later, and I get a random phone call from American McGee, who had gotten my number from Marilyn Manson, because he was doing this game American McGee's Alice, which is like a dark, twisted version of Alice in Wonderland and everything. And he just called me up and he was like, hey, I'm looking for someone to score my game. I got your number from Manson, you know, and he's like, how you been? I haven't talked to you since Quake, you know, which had been, 8 years or something. And so I flew up to San Francisco, met him, checked out his game, and it was like, we just worked together. And that one went over really well, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And so, you know, now me and Clint are doing two at the moment, and we just wrote the theme song for Doom 3 as well.
Oh, rock on.
So I don't know. Game music's really fun because it seems to be the most liberating, creative outlet for music right now. It seems to have the least amount of rules. You know, when you're doing stuff for movies or TV, there's certain set of rules and albums. You know, but games is still pretty whacked. So you get to do a lot of cool, fun, weird stuff, which I like to do.
Do you get to preview them before you?
Oh yeah, usually. I mean, you know, usually if they don't have working levels, they'll send you at least concept art, stuff like that. But you know, But yeah, usually they want you to see like finished levels so that you can see what it's going to look like and kind of stuff. So
right. I mean, it'd be hard to get a grasp of Alice. I mean, just from a template.
just from just from like hearing about it or whatever.
Going back to 2 a.m. wake up call. Can you tell us a little bit about it, how it came about? I mean, the concept behind the whole theory?
Well, yeah, there was a couple different things. You know, one, my wife was suffering really bad insomnia, where every single night, no matter what time we'd go to bed, at 2 a.m. on the dot, she'd wake up, and she'd tell me about it the next morning. She'd be like, it happened again. I'm like, yeah, bull, you know. So then pretty soon she'd be like, you know, she'd elbow me, look at the clock. I'm like, it's 2 o'clock. Exactly, I told you. Gee, thanks. Okay, I was sleeping. And, you know, so it just kind of, the title kind of came out of that whole weird weeks-long thing. But at the same time, you know, Clint and I, we're always so busy doing like remixes and game stuff and all that other stuff that the only time we ever really had to work on Tweaker was pretty much at night. So we just started getting on this nighttime vibe where we'd just stay up all night. Right. And we'd work all night, and then of course, you know, 2 in the morning, you know, Carrie'd get out of bed because she'd get up, and then she'd come in, you know, bring us martinis and stuff like that. Right. You know, so the whole thing just had this nighttime. Everything's quiet and peaceful, and it was just the only time we could really work. So the whole thing just kind of all led together into that.
So does that help the creative flow? Get things out quicker?
It did it did, you know, not always, but it did on this record. I mean, I'm used to getting up early now and working 9 to 5 or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, for this record, it just seemed to work really, really well. And once we figured out it did work really well, we just decided to stick with it no matter what.
Right.
You know, so.
Cool. I mean, the ending product was awesome.
Thanks.
I didn't think you could match the first album, but you did it.
Well, this one's, I mean, a lot different. You know, it's weird. It's still electronic. It's a bit more band sounding, but it's, we you know, like, there's not a lot of live drumming on the first record because I think I was just burnt after all those tours with Nails and stuff, so I was kind of just sick of my drums. And in the last couple of years, like, I'd rediscovered my own instrument and, you know, bought a new drum set, you know, and that we used to record the record with. And, you know, so, like, really wanted to make a focus of going back to, like, visceral live drum playing again instead of just wacky noises and stuff. And, you know, having Clint around, you know, and he's a guitarist and a piano player. And, you know, we were just trying to make something more emotional this time. Where the first one was, like, kind of challenging noise-wise on purpose. We wanted this one to be more, like, just more emotionally lulling somehow, and you know, not having, you know, there are weird stuff all through there as well, but first and foremost was just kind of going for an emotional core, you know, as far as the songwriting went. That was kind of our thing, you know.
It seems like both of them was pretty personal. I mean,
yeah, I mean they always are, you know, because I mean for Tweaker, I mean the reason we do it is it's just we only kind of answer to ourselves, you know. There's you know, our labels that we put the records out on are just you know, basically they say just get started now and tell us when you're done. Can't wait to hear it, you know. And it's so there's really no rules, so we can actually just kind of do whatever feels right at the time.
Right. That's almost like an artist's wet dream. Instead of having somebody stand over and know that
like, oh, we need a radio hit. I mean, it's not music that's designed to be that way anyway, so I don't think there's any sort of false expectation upon it, which is very liberating.
Right.
And then, you know, when it does well, then it's more of just a surprise rather than a, you know, like some sort of forced
no
thing
Britney
upon
Spears shit.
You know, exactly. Yeah, oh God, no.
Right. Right.
I can't dance anyway, so.
So we can't get you in a mini skirt, start line dancing or nothing?
I don't think there's enough booze in all of Denver for that.